I'm Quinetta Roberson, and I want to thank the Slack team for including me in this. I have a sense of belonging, but also I use this as an opportunity, not necessarily to just convey some things that are on my mind and to share those ideas with you, but to really push my thinking about where we can go. So what I want to talk briefly about today is, as we think about belonging, what have we done, what are we doing, and what couldn't we do in the future? And when I look at, we think about, we have to start with inclusion before we can get to belonging, because we saw this change in terminology somewhere around 2005. And people were saying, we're trying to create inclusive environments. And part of the struggle was to understand, what did that mean? And over time, researchers have identified the experience of inclusion as having a sense of uniqueness, a value for who you are, and also a sense of belonging, that you feel connected to something. At the same time, we've tried to understand, how do we do that, right? How do we make people feel a sense of uniqueness and this sense of belonging? And we have, if we think about creating cultures for that, there's the practices and there's the leadership. Well, research on practices hasn't necessarily advanced that much over the last few years. What we've done is more kind of put things in place and see what works. And so we've done, learning and education initiatives, thinking about, Sheila mentioned training. She also mentioned ERGs. Does that help create feelings of inclusion? And we've also done, staffing initiatives and those kinds of things. But at the same time, we focused on leadership and what leaders can do. And we have research that suggests that leaders can do a number of things, that in being more relational, that they can create feelings of inclusion. And so things like just what's considered to be diverse talent management, right? Having diversity, realizing differences, and having those differences present in an organization. Having person role fit, right? And so Sherry mentioned not just valuing someone for their group membership, but more so what they bring to the table or what their contribution can be. We also know that to create, more inclusive leadership is about communication. There's research on fairness that says that we need to be fair in that we have to communicate with employees. We have to be honest and open and transparent, but we also have to treat them with respect and dignity. And in that communication process, they'll feel valued and connected. And then we also have to give them a sense of agency, right? Not that we are helping them, but we are actually being a support in order for them to realize their goals. And what's interesting about that is I'm doing a lot of work now on allyship. And there are a number of people who say, for example, I just had an example personally where someone said, I'm going to be an ally to you. And I thought, okay, I didn't ask for that. I got this one. But the person just said, no, I'm going to be an ally for you. And so there was this more of this help, right, that I needed that rather as a sense of agency. But if in being inclusive leaders, that's part of the recognizing of people's value that they bring to an organization, to let them tell us how they can meaningfully contribute. And so in thinking about creating a culture of belonging, we have to think how to do this, not just one-on-one with employees, but on a larger scale. And what my research to date shows that there are 4 kind of pillars of that. One is the understanding and valuing differences in terms of, are people, do we recognize those differences? Do people experience practices and policies the same way, as Brian mentioned? Are they equitable? And do people have an opportunity to participate in decision making? But contrary to that individual focus, we have to do it with a focus on the team, thinking about team skill sets and thinking about collaboration. So not necessarily what does one person bring, but how do we activate the team in order to create synergies in something new? We also have to realize about skill utilization. How can we have a focus on performance and people allowing us to tell people telling us how they want to contribute and meaningfully contribute, but then how we can make sure that people have voice in the work that we do. And voice, not just in terms of agreeing with us as leaders, but also if they want to debate or if they offer criticism. And so there has to be almost that balance of benefit, but also being able to take the negative. And in the interest of time, what I want to do for our discussion going forward is to say that the Sherry mentioned being able to count on our coworkers, and I was talking about the role of leaders, but there's a role for team members as well. So how do we translate these four pillars into something that team members can actually do? What do peers do to create that sense of belonging? And I think that leaves us some that's a gap and leaves us some space to really explore going forward in the future.